Hello, writers. Come write with me. My name is Michaela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Michaela. I'm very glad to have you join me. So don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. Today, we are going to continue to explore the world of a well-known author, Eric Arthur Blair, who wrote under the pen name George Orwell. He has written several books, including 1984 and Animal Farm. In today's episode, we're going to discuss Chapter 2 in a book club format. I expect you have read Chapter 2 before watching this video. The version I am reading is published by Signet Classics. The copyright was 1949, and the copyright was renewed in 1977. So, this is a reminder. This is what the book looks like. We left off. Winston was in the little alcove, writing in the journal. There was a knock at the door. So now we're starting Chapter 2. Well, Winston goes to open the door, and he looks back. And he sees the journal with the large print. This makes him nervous. But he opens the door. Mrs. Parsons is at the door and asks for his help with a clogged kitchen sink. Of course, she uses newspeak and calls Winston comrade instead of Mr. Smith or Winston. Just comrade. Will you help me, comrade? You know, if you called everybody comrade, you wouldn't have to know anybody's name. I just thought of that. I just call you comrade. Oh, my comrades. I wouldn't have to know your name. Anyway, remember, although there are no laws that you can recite or know, everything these people do is controlled. At least Big Brother tries to control it. You can't actually control thought unless you succeed with brainwashing. So Winston goes down the hall to her apartment or her flat. They call them flats, I think, and not apartments. And as he's going down the hall, he's describing the building, or the book describes the buildings, and the buildings are, falling apart. The apartment building is Victoria Mansions, and they were built in the 1930s. And you've got peeling paint, you've got cracking wall, you've got all the stuff with it's falling apart. So, it's still more setting. You still have more setting to do. As a writer, you can put in setting here and there. If you try to do too much setting at the beginning, you're going to lose your people. So like I said, the book talks about peeling paint, the heat turned off, water leaking in, other things. Just, it doesn't sound like a good apartment or flat or building or whatever. Now, also as writers, we realize that we're getting in some more setting while the characters are walking. They're walking down the hall. They're not talking to each other. They're just walking down the hall. So you can fill this time with a little setting. You don't want to put in too much. You don't want to overload your people with too much, but you put in a little bit. Then the book describes Parsons' apartment, the look of it, the smell of it, and it describes Parsons' husband, who is a co-worker of Winston and who is not home. Winston unclogs the sink, and he doesn't really like to put his hands in this nasty water, but he unclogs the sink fairly easily. And as he leaves, the kids in uniforms of the spies arrest Winston and call him a traitor. So they're just calling him names, calling him Goldstein, calling him traitor, and saying all kinds of things against him. And they have, I think it's like a red shirt and blue shorts. I don't remember the clothes, but everybody has uniforms, basically. If you're a part of the party, you have a uniform. If you're a spy, you have a uniform. And the kids are all spies. Miss Parson excuses the behavior of the children and says they want, I have that wrong. They want to watch the hanging of the Eurasia war criminals, and they're not going to get to do that. At this point, Winston notes in his mind that it will happen in the evening in the park, and there are at least one per month. So you have where you bring your family and your kids to watch the hanging of these war criminals. This is kind of the mentality you have to kind of get into. But the kids are shouting how he's a traitor, and he works for Goldstein, and da-da-da-da. So Winston leaves hurriedly, but the boy shoots his toy gun and hits him in the neck, and again calls him Goldstein. So at this point, Winston reflects that children were trained to be spies against their parents, and they worship Big Brother. So if you've ever been around small children, you know they parrot everything. If a parent cusses, and a small talking child will repeat the word. And if you tell a child the sky is purple, they will believe you. Small children don't have the ability to discern things. They're still learning about the world around them. And they have to trust the people that are teaching them. So they're just told all these things, and they automatically report their parents on everything and stuff like that. Not that can't see, because it has a telescreen that can watch them. So Winston returns to his alcove and thinks of what to write next. He remembers a dream, where in the dream he is walking in the dark, and a voice tells him, "We shall meet in a place where there is no darkness." Winston realizes that it is O'Brien's voice in the dream, but he can't remember when he realized that. He doesn't remember if he realized it before the look, after the look, and all that stuff. He goes through several things. Now, the telescreen has been going the whole time. It had military music, and it switched to a clipped military voice, telling about what's going on with the military. Now the telescreen pauses with a trumpet call. The voice continues with a victory announcement. It tells gory descriptions of annihilation of a Eurasia army, and lists figures killed and prisoners taken. Also, it announces chocolate ration reduced from 30 grams down to 20 grams. What? I read that part again. What? 30 grams of chocolate is already only like a fourth of a standard size bar. A 1/4. That's a little bitty. And you want me to reduce that? And this is their allotment or allowance or whatever. They're only allowed this. So, leave a comment on how you feel about chocolate. I actually know some people who don't like chocolate. Be like, "Can I have yours? You can have this. You can have my chips, my Cheetos, or whatever. Give me your chocolate." I like dark chocolate, like 65% cocoa or higher. I even eat 95% cocoa. 90 is really good. 95, I have a few bars that are 95 cocoa. So, if you like chocolate, comment on what type of chocolate you like. You like milk chocolate? Do you like the white chocolate? Do you like dark chocolate? Or maybe you like dark chocolate like the Hershey Kisses that don't have a percentage of cocoa in them. They just say dark chocolate. Or maybe you like really dark chocolate. Now, back to the story. The telescreen finishes with Oceania's "'Tis for Thee," but since Winston was back in the alcove, the telescreen could not see that he did not stand to attention. So when they play Oceania, 'tis for thee, you're supposed to stand at attention. He's in the alcove. The telescreen can't see him, so he's not standing at attention. I'm sorry. What? I'm in my house during my lunch hour, and you expect me to stand at attention because you got some victory somewhere, but then you cut out some of my chocolate? I would stay in the alcove too. I would live in the alcove as much as I could. Like, you want me to stand to attention and you cut my chocolate? Because that's what I'm thinking. You had some victory somewhere. I don't know if it's a real war or it's not a real war at this point. I just know that you always say that whatever the saying was, I know it's in here somewhere. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. So, and ignorance is strength. So, you're just telling me to say these things. I don't know that you're really fighting. You're showing me some pictures. But you cut my chocolate. That's what I know. You want me to salute that? So I would stay in the alcove. After that, Winston goes to the window, but he makes sure that the telescreen can't see his face. Because, if he doesn't have the right expression on his face, it's not good. Somewhere a rocket explodes. The book tells us that Winston reflects that 20 to 30 rockets fall on London every week. At this point, I'm suspecting foul play. I'm wondering if Big Brother is actually dropping the rockets on its own people. I guess I have to keep reading. There are more descriptions of the setting as he's looking out the window. Wind is blowing signs almost off the buildings. And the sign is Inksock, which is spelled INGSOC. And then when you see Inksock, you're supposed to think of the principles of Inksock, which are newspeak, doublethink, and mutability of the past. So the signs remind everyone how to act. Seeing the sign flap causes Winston to think of the 3 slogans from the Ministry of Truth. I just looked those up. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. And he takes out a coin out of his pocket, like a quarter or something. I don't remember what it was. He takes out a coin and he reads those 3 slogans on one side. And on the other side, he sees the head of Big Brother. He knows I is always watching you. He sees the eye from the Big Brother and he knows the Big Brother is watching. And then Winston wonders why he's making the diary, or for whom he's making the diary. Is he making it for the past? Is he making it for the future? Is he making it for the present? Why is he making this diary? He has no idea why he was motivated to do this. The clock strikes 1400. So they are using military time. My context clue was when I read clock strikes. So before they said 1300, but there was no clock or anything in it. He just said it's 1300. But he was going home, so it could have been 1300 block. I didn't know. Now I know 1400 is the time. Now, I also, in the journal entry, I read that it's April 4th, 1984. So this is April 4th, 1984, and it's now 2 o'clock. If you don't do military time, then just take the 1400, subtract 12, you got it. Now, Winston must return to work soon and decides that his diary is for sanity. It doesn't matter the past. It doesn't matter the future. It's just for sanity. You, the reader, realize this by reading the prose he writes in the diary. And since you are reading along with me, I will let you read that. Then he looks at his hands and he sees the ink stains on his hands. And he knows if he sees it, they will turn him in. So he washes his hands. And that is the end of chapter 2. The setting is dismal. The environment is dismal. There is no individual to be seen in this setting. Even if you think about being an individual, you could be turned in. At this point, I think Winston should have wondered whether the children spotted the ink stains on his hands, because he wrote in the journal before he went to help with the pipe. And if he had thought about that, the children saw the stains, that would have made him very nervous. At least I think it would have. Now, leave a comment on if after the experience of the children yelling things at you and pretending to arrest you, if that were you, would you ever go back to help that neighbor? I'd be too scared to go back. I would make some excuse. Oh, my hand hurt. Oh, I have a headache. I would make some excuse. I would not go back to have those children yelling at me like that, and knowing, especially if I realized that I had the ink on my hand while I went there, I would just be like, no, I'm not going back. Leave a comment on what you would write in a journal or diary if you were forbidden to write things that Big Brother had not prescribed for you to write. Big Brother says you need to write this. Like, they have news articles and stuff that are written and read to them, but if Big Brother tells you to write the article, you write the article. If he doesn't tell you, you're forbidden. So, would you write in a diary or journal if you were forbidden to write things? And what would you write? Now, I'm going to take a side trip for a minute. As a child, I did have a diary. And my mother read my diary. And I didn't like that. I got in trouble for things that I wrote in my diary. So, I developed a script. I'll bring in my journal one day and show you. I developed a script. And I called it an unbreakable code. It probably is breakable. The FBI have all kinds of things to do. I called it unbreakable code. And I developed a script. And I started writing in a diary in that script. So anybody that didn't know the script could not read the diary. And I kept that script up after I, graduated high school. Then I got married to my first husband. I didn't want him reading my diary either because he wasn't trustworthy either. I kind of knew that. I should have not married him because I should have figured that out. Like, if you can't trust them not to read the diary or, the stuff that's in your diary, then you probably shouldn't marry them. Anyway, just a side note there. So, do you write in a diary? Do you trust the people around you not to read your diary, as that's private? And what do you write, or what would you write in the diary in this setting? Now, leave a comment on what you think the purpose of the diary is. Is it for the future or the past? Just remembering? Or is it sanity, like he kind of finally decided, it's just for sanity? Now, leave a comment on if you like getting dirty water on your hands. Also, leave a comment on what you thought of the description of Mrs. Parsons' face. And leave a comment on if you would call people comrade. I hope you enjoyed the second chapter of 1984. In my opinion, it was better than the first chapter. It was much better than the first chapter. And remember, reading is good for writers. Helps us to see how other people create their worlds. So read chapter 3. Join me Friday for a new plot. Actually, we already did the new plot last Friday. So this would be chapter 1. Join me Friday for chapter 1 of our new chapter exchange. Join me Tuesday for some vocabulary or jargon. Join me Wednesday for chapter 3 of 1984. Leave a comment on if you have any ideas for me to explore on this channel. Don't forget to visit my website, bymckella.com, read some character bios, send your writings and chapters to writewithmckella@gmail.com. Leave comments on your favorite characters. If you hit the like and the subscribe and the bell notification, then we will continue to write together, and other people will have a higher chance of finding this video and this channel, since your likes will push the video out to a greater audience. The bell was late. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, please share it with them. This is Mckella with Write with Mckella. Bye for now.